Hi, my name is Stephanie, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I do not have a research video for you, and quite frankly, cannot bring myself to do one at the moment. So today, I just thought I'd sit down and talk to you guys about why it matters, how we view autism, and talk about it. A lot of times, we want to live in this perfect world that's made for us, because one of the biggest complaints autistic people tend to have is that the world wasn't made for them. It's like it was made for neurotypical people, people who are not neurodivergent, and we just have to scramble through, try to figure out how to survive. And so a lot of times when there's these conversations, it can be almost like, well, let's just craft this wonderful world, and this is how everything should be. But I also think that it's important to understand that when we completely reject the world that we do live in and the realities that we do have to face, we tend to alienate people and also make it difficult for parents and outsiders, I guess, to be able to take us seriously and be able to implement that. If you're talking about a perfect world where these perfect things happen, how is a person who lives in the real world going to use that method? And when there's someone else who's saying, well, this is the real world that we live in, so just do it this way, they're more likely to follow that person because at least they seem like they know what they're talking about because we live in this reality. So that might have been a little bit of an odd, vague way of going about this. ABA. For example, a lot of the conversation around ABA and the people who are saying, yes, but is basically, what do I do in reality, day to day? What do I do if I can't manage all these things? What do I do if X, Y, and Z? And ABA says, oh, don't worry, you know, all kids feel a certain way, but we're going to treat them this way, and we're going to teach them how to act like everybody else and, you know, how to cope with the world and seem like everyone else. You know, this is the practical way to do things. And it can look like what autistic people are asking of them is to not give practical skills and not do practical things. And somehow that's helping, and that just doesn't make a lot of sense. I do not have a script, so we're just going off of stream of thought, and that's usually not a good thing for my editing process. One thing that I think is pretty interesting is a lot of people are developing resources to look at autism differently than it normally is. So normally there is something called the deficit model. So these are like all the things that are wrong with someone who is autistic. With these alternative ways of saying things, while very cool, sometimes just tend to leave out the reality that we do have deficits. And I don't know how to put that in a way that's not like offensive to some people. But today is one of those days, and really this week has been one of those weeks, and probably really past few weeks have been me facing the deficit side of my existence. And a lot of that is influenced by the way that my brain works. I'm autistic, and that does come with deficits. It's nice to see things in a positive way as well. And I think those things should be acknowledged. I don't think like, ooh, you know, they do these things that are socially inappropriate. You know, I don't think everything should be in a deficit way. I don't think stimming should be said in a way that's a deficit, because the one thing that I learned in developmental psychology, the one thing that was very much pressed was that difference does not equal deficit. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the psychology field have come to that conclusion, that a difference is a deficit. A difference in how we regulate than you is not a deficit. So it's kind of strange to really put like things like stimming in such a negative light and use that as a deficit. So sure, there's definitely things that I think it's almost unreasonable and a little bit rude to just always say in a negative way. I will give people that, absolutely. However, when it comes to some of the struggles, yeah, you could put those in different words or try to avoid saying things in a deficit way. But the truth is that while there are those good things and those things that shouldn't be mentioned in a way that is negative, there are deficits and there are negative things. This week, I think, has really been one of those examples of the interesting way that autism can influence my life. A cool thing is, recently, I've been cooking food, which I have gone through stages of doing that a lot and stages of doing that hardly at all. And so that's been kind of a thing that's started to become a little bit of a routine, but not every single day, so it's not too overwhelming. And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. There's another thing that happened, and you might be aware slightly because of my last video that I posted. I'll link it somewhere up there. And that really led me on a very focused, narrow road down the concept of seclusion and prone restraint, and seeing that there is nothing in my state to legally say that, you know, these are the restrictions. There are guidelines that are not required to follow. They're suggested. And I decided I wanted to do something about it. So all of a sudden, I am just barreling down this road of how do I literally get laws changed in my state? And that took me down a whole nother thing. So all the time that maybe you might suppose I would actually put into researching for a video for this, I am instead going down this rabbit hole of how I can become an advocate at the legislative level in my state. This is all happening while I am well aware that I have a lot of other things that I really need to attend to, and imagined that some kind of break would help with that. And it's not been. So I've not really kept up with the basic things of life, like general self-care and keeping up with like house things. Like on this channel, if you don't want someone to be real with you, like you probably don't want to be here. Let's just be honest. I'm coming to you looking as pale as my background with no makeup on and no script. And I'm autistic, and I feel like a lot of you are too. So let's just talk candidly, okay? I'm not the best at self-care skills. It's not a thing that I'm great at. That's like one of the things that a lot of parents of autistic children are super worried about. Like, you know, my kid can't do all these things and they can't even, you know, remember to brush their teeth or, you know, take their shower or do all these things and tidy up their room and all those sorts of things. And they look at me and they're like, oh, but you're so, you know, you don't really need all that stuff. You're not really that autistic. This kind of conversation reminds me of Indie Andy's recent video on high-functioning autism and whether we should feel guilty for having less support needs and that kind of thing. So you can definitely check that out. I'll try to remember to link that one as well. But just kind of this concept of what people imagine I should be able to do. And theoretically, absolutely, I should be able to. Like, I am capable of those things, but I'm not exactly capable of doing those things along with all these other things. Especially given the certain day or time. I focused a lot on getting my schoolwork done, so I kind of put in a lot of that effort, and then simultaneously was researching about the issue in Illinois. That took up a lot of my energy, and so while I can be a little bit proud of myself, everywhere else, everything that should happen is just falling apart. This is a deficit. It's almost like coming at an expense, if that makes sense. So me being able to get that information about what's going on in Illinois, and it literally consumed me. I was very passionate about getting it out as soon as I could. I needed to find out what was going on and how we can help this right now. And that's a lot of times what happens when I get big projects is I need to know how to get this out to you guys right now because this is a big issue. And it feels like there's just this huge urgency, but sometimes I can't get it all together yet. And so this amazing thing can sometimes happen where I can get all this stuff together, get it very quickly, sometimes very well articulated, usually in written form versus verbal form. And I can do all of this. However, this kind of process, it's like this is going on inside of my brain. And it's just all spinny, if that makes sense. Like, I can see all the pieces, but they haven't come together yet. So once I get those things together, and I give you this video, and I write this article with Neuroclastic, and I start telling people about this, I've expended a lot. I've used what I think very special resources in my brain, things that I don't believe the average person is usually capable of doing, at the expense of everything else. So now, you know, I'm behind on other things, very practical things, and that is a deficit. I don't even know if this video is gonna make any sense. I don't know, like, I almost said, screw it, like, I don't even want to do YouTube anymore, which isn't true. I want to do YouTube. I want to connect with you. I want to talk to you. I want to help you understand things. I want to change the world, quite frankly, which is a little bit ambitious. So I'm trying to do what I can do to make the world a better place, to help people, and to, you know, explain things in a way that I think will help bridge the gap. To get back to what I'm talking about how we talk about autism or how we view autism, I think it's very healthy to acknowledge the deficits. I have deficits, and I am very much facing them this week and pretty much the past couple of weeks. However, if my life was surrounded with this concept of fixing my autism, I don't know if I would have been able to bring you that video. I don't know if I would have been able to do that research. I don't know if I would have taken the first steps to try to become an advocate at that kind of level in my own state. I don't know if I would have been able to do the things that make me unique if I was so focused on stamping them out. So yes, acknowledge that some things really don't need to be put in a negative light, but also acknowledge that there is a negative side to things. And I think that plants us well in reality and where things are kind of the middle ground. And I frustrate a lot of people because a lot of times I do take the middle ground, but I think reason often ends up in the middle. If someone looks at autism and they learn their child has autism and they don't know anything about it, right? They're just starting to learn that there's this thing and something is just wrong or off and it's not like everyone else and it's causing these issues that aren't there for other people. If they go to an organization like Autism Speaks or just really a lot of people who see autism in a very negative light, they're going to be told all the horrible things about autism, and their only hope is to, you know, fix as much of that as they can. Like, okay, well, you know, they act kind of awkward around people, so let's, you know, make sure that they're socialized through these special programs, and, you know, they line up their toys, so now I gotta teach them how to play right because they don't get how to play right. They don't get how to be happy the right way. Like, they don't get it. And so there's just this constant way of wanting to fix the autistic person. Oh no, they didn't brush their hair today. Okay, we gotta remember, brush your hair, and then I'll give you a Skittle, and, you know, or we'll do this fun thing for a few minutes, and then remember, you gotta do these tasks so you can be independent and you can have a good future, and I'm gonna do all these things here to make sure that you are as not autistic as possible, or that autism is affecting you as little as possible. So this obviously leads people directly to therapies like ABA, therapies and situations where it's about controlling behavior and trying to really modify the person to fit what we think needs to happen for that person. Now, if you heard that I'm an adult and I don't always successfully deal with personal care, you might be concerned. You might say, oh wow, that's a goal we need to work on. Which, I mean, hey, yeah, I should probably work on it. However, if that was all my life was about, making sure that I have mastered these skills, which I know how to do these things, it's just actually being able to do them day to day and keep up with all of that, it just doesn't work for me. And sometimes I'm in good spurts and I can totally do it, and other times it's not happening. And good luck for you and good luck for me, you know what I mean? But if my life was about, okay, well, Stephanie, today, remember, we gotta wake up at such and such time, and this is our routine. We're gonna brush our hair. Like, if you focused your entire time on trying to make sure I mastered those skills, I wouldn't be able to contribute to the world in the way that I have. And while my contribution thus far isn't that amazing, I do think that it's been important. I know that some people really don't like me. I know that some people would be very happy if I decided to yeet myself off the planet, or at least never talk again. And that's okay. But there are a few of you who have informed me that what I do has positively affected you in some way. If my life was about, okay, Stephanie, we have to do all these special life skills every day the same way, and let's do all these tasks to make sure that you have properly mastered these things so you can be a normal human being who is independent and capable, I would not be able to do those things. I would probably not be in college. I would probably not be studying to be an OTA, which is also hilarious because that also helps people learn how to do these skills. And I hope to learn for myself and how to help myself. But I'm also excited to see what it means for an individual to succeed in their life on their terms, if that makes sense. Now, this is where it gets tricky because obviously a parent is going to want to know that their child is capable of brushing their hair and brushing their teeth and taking a shower and eating food at the right times and blah, 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 blah. Obviously, right? You don't want someone to just like waste away in a corner. If you focus solely on these things, you start to deny the person as a human being. We kind of put this weird qualifier on what it means to be like successful, or for the longest time people were like, I'm adulting, doing these adult things. We tend to put these qualifiers on what makes someone a good, useful human being, and apparently that means that I have to be able to have very good self-care skills and be able to manage my house well and my finances well and all these sorts of things, and from the lowest to the highest, all types of things in here. And quite frankly, I'm pretty bad at all of those things. But I do have other things I can contribute to the world. If you were focused on modifying my behavior so I can succeed in the way that you think is success, I would not be able to do the things that I view as success. I view what I do here, what I find, when I go into research and when I bring these things to you, I find that as a form of success. I find that as actually being helpful in this world. So yeah, autism comes with positives and negatives. Now, a lot of times we have this opposite thing where it's like this magical world where, you just like always just let the autistic person do whatever they want and it's okay, blah, blah, blah. And while I honestly lean a lot more in that direction because I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of why people do what they do, a parent looks at that and they hear, like, don't do ABA, this is bad, this is abuse. And they say, okay, well then what? And then we say, well, just be a good parent. What does that mean? When we see autism as both a positive and a negative, just being a part of who we are, it is much easier to understand how someone can say, you don't need ABA, you just need to be there for your child. It makes a little more sense. Because if you were to say, like, for example, a lot of times autism has been compared to like cancer in statistics. And so, if you had a kid with cancer and you said like, oh, no, you don't need any treatments, like, that hurts them, just be a good parent and they'll be fine. Like, you'd be like, no, that's not happening. They're not going to be able to live. They won't have a quality of life at all, and all these things, right? Obviously, these are two very different things, but a lot of times people look at them very similarly. If you see autism as a disease, you're going to want to do whatever you can to get rid of it. But you have to understand that autism is a part of who I am. It is not perfect. When we say like, oh, autism is a gift and autism is a superpower and autism is so amazing and you shouldn't want to change your child at all, a lot of times parents are stuck because they're looking at the failures in executive function. They're looking at the meltdowns and they don't understand how to help their child. And yeah, therapy can actually be quite helpful, but not ABA therapy. There's occupational therapy, there's speech therapy, there's certain forms of play therapy that are not based on compliance that can really be helpful in the areas. I would have been so much better at dealing with my life if I knew how to help myself in situations. If I knew that there were things I could do, like accommodations, if I knew that, I could go do this thing or grab this fidget or take a break for a few minutes to regulate myself. If I had those skills when I was younger, I feel like I would have been in a lot better of a position. So yes, use therapies. Help someone understand the world around them. Help them interact with the world in their way. But that doesn't mean that you're trying to make them not autistic. That doesn't mean that you're trying to make them fit into what you think is whatever this is supposed to be, this humanness, this successful person. Success is defined, honestly, by each individual. When we view autism as deficit only, when we view autism as this bad, horrible disease, this thing that is ruining someone's life and they're never going to be a normal person, we immediately are going to see people going down trends of how to fix this. Not because they don't love their child, but actually the opposite. They love their child, and their concept of what a normal person is, of what a successful, thriving person is someone who doesn't have this thing that's holding them back. They're being told that autism is this bad thing that's gonna torment them and make them have a horrible life forever. And so they're going to work to get rid of that, right? Any sign of that. That is their goal, and they think that this will make their life and their child's life better if they can kind of minimize whatever this autism stuff is. If you come from the side of autism is a superpower, autism is fantastic and wonderful, you are, in one way, you're going to look for ways to support that, right? You're going to be like, yeah, autism is amazing. I'm going to support all the things that you do. It's awesome. This is, in my opinion, better overall than this one. However, coming from this to talk to parents who do deal with the real deficits, the real negative sides of autism, or even adults who have autism who are dealing with the negative effects, this can be kind of like a delusion to them. Are you denying the reality? Are you denying that there are difficult things? Are you denying that we do need help? Are you denying that there are very real plights that autistic people face? So when you're over here completely, you kind of alienate these people and really kind of continue to press them over here because they're not going to listen to this stuff because they think you're delusional. You think apparently that all the bad stuff doesn't happen, and they're faced every day with the bad stuff. But they're also not usually looking for the good. And over here, well, this I think is overall better. This can also sometimes lead to a denial of development. If autism is perfectly wonderful and awesome, and you don't understand autism well, you might not be giving that person the help that they need. If you're saying, well, you know, like these meltdowns, that's just autism or whatever. Well, we don't exactly enjoy going through those things. You know, never teaching someone how to, you know, have skills or never helping them advance is also kind of detrimental. If you treat someone like they should be just however they are forever, that's not going to help them either. So I think there's really this beautiful mixture that acknowledges, yes, there are deficits. Yes, there are struggles. Yes, there are very real issues. But yes, autism is a part of who we are. It is how my brain is mapped out, and it can bring beautiful, amazing, and wonderful things. But I do need support. I do need things that are going to help me to thrive. I do need certain skills. I do need to understand how sensory things work and understand how my brain works so that I can avoid meltdowns, because meltdowns aren't magical and wonderful. That doesn't mean forcing me to not express that I'm in distress. So I think that there is a middle ground where we can talk to each other. Yes, I see that there are issues. Yes, I understand your concerns. Sure, we can teach life skills and self-help, but understand that autism doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen every day. And that's also okay. How do we balance this fluctuation of sometimes I can and sometimes I can't? How do we respond to the very real support needs that autistic people have while not being all about how autism is horrible and autism is this bad thing that we're battling? Because we are not battling autism, we're battling a misunderstanding of how things work. What is success? What does it mean to be a successful human being? What is it to be a human being? What is it to have, you know, a developmental disability that literally is forming throughout your brain, throughout your years in life, and mapping out things so distinctly differently than other people? Difference does not equal deficit. We are not inherently deficit for being autistic. However, autism comes with special deficits that may be different or more exaggerated than non-autistic deficits. Now, I hope that made some kind of sense. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That the way that we talk about autism, the way we approach autism can really affect how someone proceeds with their life, how they might treat their child, how they might treat other people, and also how we might actually be able to converse with each other. Because sometimes if you're so far on this side or so far on this side of the view of what you think autism is, it can cause there to not be any conversation here in the middle to help understand that both of these sides might have a point. And it does matter. It does matter how we see people and autism and disability in general. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and leave a like. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in autism related things from me, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm doing my very best to get you something on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're not a fan of this particular type of video, that's okay. I've got plenty of other videos that are actually kind of scripted and researched very well and all that stuff. Thank you to everyone who supports me here on YouTube as YouTube members, my patrons over on Patreon, and a special thank you to my Spaz tier patron, Philip Noah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!